What's up, sports bettors? Alex here, and I have a bunch of picks for you today that we're going to get into in a sec. But you can see this 5 flex I gave out yesterday. Our final pick is a UFC pick, so we need this to hit on Saturday. But a common question I get is like, wow, you have NHL, MLB, NBA, UFC in the same slip. Why are you doing that? Right? And I say this all the time, but as a sharp bettor, right, you're essentially hunting through the tens of thousands of odds on each platform. So you can see just here, DraftKings, they have player point lines, alternate player points, right? They have game lines, they have alternate totals, alternate spreads. DraftKings at any given time has 50,000 plus odds on their platform. And as a sharp bettor, you're really hunting for those few rare betting opportunities where DraftKings is screwing up. Right? All these books, they want to set lines independently. So you're looking for discrepancies, right? Where is FanDuel? Where's DraftKings giving too much value? So the tool I typically start out on is called the Positive EV Betting Tool. And this tool's, mainly meant for sports books, but you can also use it for PrizePicks and platforms like that. But all you do is you put in the sports books you use. So I have Caesars, FanDuel, DraftKings selected. You may use different sports books, right? I say this all the time. Books, there are certain sports books that are in New York. There are some that are in Virginia. There are some that are in Canada. So depending on where you're watching this from, you may have different books, right? And if you have different sports books available to you, your sports books may be screwing up in different places. So if you don't use FanDuel, this plays on FanDuel, but there's probably value on other sports books you use like DraftKings or Fliff or any of these other platforms. So you can see right here, this is the profit margin of this bet. 3.47%, Red Sox Tigers over 4.5 first half total runs. And I'll have a PrizePicks slip here in a bit for you guys, but let's just go through this play on FanDuel. So you can see on FanDuel, we're getting pretty good value, right? We're getting plus 116 on the over 4.5 first half total. No other book is giving better than, plus 106. So this is what's crazy about sports betting, right? All of these sports books, they set lines independently. So you essentially have numerous data points oftentimes telling you where the line should be set. And you can see DraftKings, all these other sports books are saying, this should be priced around minus 105, minus 103, around that area. And FanDuel is offering a lot of value at plus 116. That really is how simple sports betting is, right? So this is a bet I placed. You can see I bet it for 413.80. So this is just the maximum stake that FanDuel allowed me to bet, 413.80. So I hit it, 413.80 at plus 116 odds. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's so simple. You're just finding value in the odds. And it's like, just like a day trader is looking for value in the stock market, an investor is looking for value, right? You're just looking for value in the market. And what's crazy about sports betting is all these books, right? They set lines independently. So as a sharp bettor, you want to have more sports books, right? If you don't have FanDuel, you only have DraftKings, you're missing out on this spot. Red Sox Tigers first half total over 4.5, where FanDuel's giving you a ton of value offering this play at plus 116. So some people will filter for specific sports. Some people, don't like betting on baseball. I typically keep all sports, all leagues selected because if there's value in the, as I said earlier on PrizePicks, if there's value in the NBA, I'll have more plays on the NBA. If there's value in the MLB, I'll have more plays on the MLB. And we can see the top profit margin play for the books I have selected. You can continue going through. You see the profit margins get lower, but it's on FanDuel. FanDuel's the book really slipping up right now, offering way too much value on the MLB. Right? So again, these sports books are, pretty good at keeping their lines in check. But again, when each platform, when DraftKings and FanDuel are each offering 50,000 plus odds, that's a lot of surface area for them to cover, right? They have to keep all their lines in check themselves because again, all books want to be unique. They want to set lines independently. If all books had the exact same odds, we wouldn't need hundreds of sports books. So they all do it independently. So the EV tool is just constantly updating, millions of odds from DraftKings, FanDuel, all these different sports books to try to point out value to you, right? And you can see this is the highest value play currently available. And you can follow along with the line movements as well just by clicking this chart. So you can see here, if we click on Pinnacle is known to be one of the sharpest sports books out there. You can see that the first half total used to be much higher. Over 4.5 used to be priced at plus 140, but the total started ripping higher, right? You can see they dropped odds on the over 4.5 first half total runs from plus 142 to plus 104, right? Now down to plus 100. So all of the sharp action, right? All of the action was coming in on the over. So all these books had their over 4.5 first half total runs hammered down. All the action was coming in on the over, so they're all down at around plus 100. And FanDuel is what we call stale, right? They're stale, still offering this line at plus 116. FanDuel's offering way too much value given where all the other data points, are pricing this, right? So essentially the way I think about sports betting, and the same way an investor thinks about investments, is like, wow, we're getting plus 116 on FanDuel. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other data points telling us this line should be around plus 104. Plus 116 is crazy value, right? This is a play we want to go with. So that's the first play I went with. And we'll go through, we can go through the math behind it here in a second. But the second tool that I am going to start showing you guys, and it's currently free to use, it's called the OddsJam fantasy screen. So basically PrizePicks, Underdog, No House Advantage, Thrive Fantasy, whatever fantasy site you want to look at, you can, add any filters. I don't add any filters. And all this tool shows you is spots that are really good plays on PrizePicks. So it shows you the highest profit margin plays on PrizePicks. So you can see currently Lane Thomas, over half of a run. So Lane Thomas to score a run is the highest odds to hit on PrizePicks, right? 55.68%. So you basically just want to take any of the picks in green. So you can see right here, and you want to include it in a 5 or 6 flex on PrizePicks. So you want to, typically just take the highest profit margin ones. You can switch it around, but again, like PrizePicks, what's so interesting about this platform is they don't vary your payouts, right? Depending on if you select overs or unders. So you can see here, any 2-pick entry, doesn't matter if I switch from overs to unders. Unlike FanDuel, there's no odds on PrizePicks, right? There's no odds on this platform. Every single pick is the same odds, is the same price, right? And if this is confusing, I've done other strategy videos on PrizePicks. You can also email me. I'll put my email in the description. But essentially, because PrizePicks, right, they don't vary your payouts depending on if you select overs or unders, the strategy to beating them is pretty simple. You want to look for spots where sportsbooks have an over or an under, right, really heavily favored. Because that means if the sportsbooks, right, if all the sportsbooks have the under as the favorite outcome, so here you can see, the under 4.5 first half total runs is still the favorite outcome, right? So sportsbooks are telling us, hey, the under is more likely to occur than the over is. It's still a good bet on FanDuel because we're getting so much value at plus 116, but all the sportsbooks, right, they have the under slightly favored, slightly juiced, right? So long story short, all the books, every single sportsbook is telling us, hey, the under 4.5 is the more likely outcome, is more likely to occur than the over is, right? This bet is still good on FanDuel, again, because we're getting so much value, but the under is the favorite outcome. So what this tool does, right, is it pulls in all the odds from sportsbooks and shows you plays where sportsbooks have an over or an under really heavily favored. So for Lane Thomas, all of the sportsbooks, FanDuel has this line at minus 170, DraftKings, Caesars, and BetMGM around minus 135-ish. So all the books, maybe on average around minus 145 odds, they all have Lane Thomas favored to score a run, right? Which is why this is a great play to include in a PrizePicks slip, because it's 55.68% to hit. So the over is more likely than the under. The over is significantly more likely than the under. So what OddsJam is doing is, again, it's just pulling in all these lines from PrizePicks or Underdog, whatever you're looking at on the fantasy screen, looking for spots where sportsbooks have one side, either the over or the under, really heavily favored, and then pointing out that play to you. So here you can see for Dustin May, hits allowed, all the sportsbooks have his over 4.5 hits allowed as the favorite outcome, right? Lines are juiced towards the over 4.5 hits allowed around, minus 140 odds. We're getting, this in a PrizePicks slip, so this play is profitable. So you just want to play the picks in green. So what I ended up going with on PrizePicks is Lane Thomas to score a run, top play from the fantasy screen. Dustin May over 4.5 hits allowed. Calvin Biggio to get on base right here. Miko to score a goal right here. And then Zach Collins under 17.5 points. So this play, it looks like it's new, this play on Evander Kane. So I ended up, I didn't have this play. I only had these top 5 when I was forming my entry. So you just want to play these plays in green, and obviously the plays that have the highest odds to hit, the highest probability of hitting, are most profitable. And this tool is currently free to use. It's in beta version, so any suggestions you have for this tool, you can feel free to email me. But anyways, So this is what I got on PrizePicks, right? $100 to win 10,000 in a 5 flex, just taking the highest profit margin or the highest likelihood plays to hit, which is really how you beat PrizePicks, right? You find spots where sportsbooks have an over or an under really heavily favored because PrizePicks doesn't vary your payouts based on you selecting the over or under. You find spots where the sportsbooks have one side really heavily favored, and then you include that in your PrizePicks slip. Just like here, Dustin May, over 4.5 hits allowed, is the heavily favored outcome, right? So we can actually pull up the Dodgers game maybe here in a second. My Wi-Fi is a little slow today, but we'll try to pull this up. But long story short, we can also go through, the math behind this play on FanDuel. So this right here is your profit margin, 3.47%, right? So let's pull up hits allowed here. And let's wait for it to load. So you can see here, right? Dustin May over 4.5 player hits allowed. All the sports books, right, have this around minus 140 odds. All the books have the over heavily favored, right? So this is a great play to include in our PrizePicks slip because PrizePicks isn't varying your payouts depending on if you select the over or the under. That's why the fantasy screen recommended this play, because the fantasy screen is pointing out, hey, like you can get this line on PrizePicks in a 5 flex, but all the sports books are telling you the over, his over 4.5 hits allowed, is a lot more likely than the under. So follow the data, right? All the books, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sports books all telling you is over 4.5 hits allowed is the heavily favored outcome. So this is a great play to include in your PrizePicks slip. In line shopping, by the way, browsing odds on OddsJam for any game you want to look at. So just right here, it's completely free to do. Any sport you want to look at, millions of odds updating in real time. You can hunt for value yourself. It's completely free to do on OddsJam. It always has been. So you can also just hunt around manually and look for value. But anyways, so let's go back to this play on FanDuel. Over 4.5 first half total runs, 3.47% profit margin. So this is your profit margin. So if we switch over here, you can see, okay, I hit this bet that has a 3.47% profit margin for 413.80, right? I bet this for 413.80, right? So essentially the EV, or the expected value, the long-term ROI in my bet, or the profit margin of my bet in dollars, however you want to think about it, expected value, profit margin, ROI, edge, all these terms are very similar. So you can call this, right, this column, people refer to this number, the percent, as your edge, your profit margin, your ROI, whatever you want to call it. So this bet has a 3.47% profit margin. We hit it for 413.80. So this bet has, you multiply these numbers together, 1436 in profit margin when you quantify it in dollars, right? 3.47% profit margin, 413.80 stake, 1436 in profit margin in dollars, right? And again, that's because of the insane value that FanDuel is giving us on this play at plus 116. So a lot of people will be like, oh, that doesn't seem like a huge profit margin, 3.47%, kind of whatever. But what you have to remember, right, what's really critical to remember is this game is today, right? So you're earning a 3.47% ROI in a day. So I say this all the time, but, positive EV betting, it's kind of like finding coins that are weighted in your favor. That's how I like to think about it, is you can imagine if there's a coin that's 53% to show up on heads, let's say 47% to land on tails, that coin is weighted in favor of heads, right? If it's 53% to land on heads. So if me and you were flipping it for $100, I would want to pick heads, right? Because heads is the more likely outcome. And of course, if we're flipping it for $100, it's still going to show up tails 47% of the time, and I'm going to lose. The bet's not a lock. It's not guaranteed. Even though heads, we know for a fact that this coin is weighted 53% to show up on heads. We know heads is the more likely outcome, right? It's still going to show up tails every once in a while. So this bet isn't guaranteed to win. But over the course of the long run, if you flip a coin that's 53% to land on heads, it's going to land on heads more often. That's just statistics, the law of large numbers, it's called. Right? Like if a coin's 53% to land on heads and you flip it 1,000,000 times, it's basically certain, right? Literally certain that coin's going to land on heads more often than tails, right? And you'd be up, or I'd be up money if we were flipping it for $100. So it's no different here. Positive EV betting, you're not guaranteed to win this bet, but over the course of the long run, placing bets with a 3.47% edge or profit margin or ROI will lead to an actual ROI of 3.47%. So kind of the example I give is, right, let's say you're betting $1,000 a day and your average play has a profit margin of 3%. So this one was 3.47%, but let's say each bet you place has a 3% profit margin and you're betting $1,000 a day, right? So this is your return in a day. That's what you have to remember. If you're betting $1,000 a day, right? These games in general, we're not betting on soccer games a while away. Most of the positive EV plays on OddsJam are for today, right? So you can see today, today, today. So if you're earning a 3% return daily, or you can have a 3% edge on your bets, then you're going to earn a 90% monthly ROI. So if you're betting $1,000 a day, each of your plays has a 3% profit margin. So 3% profit margin, you're betting $1,000 a day, you're going to have a monthly ROI of 90%. So just 3% times 30 days in a month. So you're earning 90% monthly ROI on $1,000 bet per day. You're going to earn $900 in profit every single month. Right? That's how positive EV betting works, right? And there will be some ups and downs. There will be some variance because, again, we're basically just flipping coins, finding bets that are weighted in our favor, similar to a coin that's 53% to show up on heads. So this play isn't guaranteed to win. This play on PrizePicks isn't guaranteed to win. This MLB bet isn't guaranteed to win. But essentially, this tells us, okay, we're going to be earning roughly $900 a month. Maybe some months it'll be $700, $1,100, $500, $1,300. There will be some variability, but over the course of the long run, you're going to earn roughly $900 a month if you're betting $1,000 a day with a 3% edge. So I'll put this sheet in the description, but this is kind of how you quantify sports betting, how to reach your profit goals and stuff like that. So again, any questions you have, my email's in the description, kind of running through the math and strategy behind some of the plays I'm on. Let's make money.